Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to a EC Comics review episode of Tales From The Crypt. Today, joining me is the one, the only, Alan Katz.
Always a pleasure to join you here at Tales From The Crypt. Jason, thank you as always for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Just to have an excuse for us to hang out.
Indeed.
Much more than the last time we did this. I'll put it that way.
Well, hey, but I'm just curious, what was the reception to that last episode that I did with those comics? What was the response to those comics?
No, I haven't heard much. I mean, we love our listeners, but you guys should. I encourage everyone to comment, to let us know how we're doing. If there's something you like, tell us. Something you don't like, tell us. It's one of those things. I'd rather that God hate me than not know I exist. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. So that was Epitaph. No, that was Cruel Universe segment that we did a couple weeks ago. It was very politically
sci-fi
motivated.
Comics.
Yeah. This one is thankfully not. So we're going back to Epitaphs From The Abyss. Jumping back more into our horror wheelhouse. Again, we're doing the November issue, number 5.
Yeah, not an ounce of social relevance to any of this shit. And thank goodness.
There's some really great covers. I wish they had something to do with the episode. There's that really cool cover of a woman walking from a car, midnight, full moon, axe, and a vampire head in hand. There's not a vampire to be found in this episode, so I was like, okay, I kind of want to know the story of that. Great picture though. And again, looking at the rest of them, I don't think any of them actually have anything directly to do with the segments, but they're all very cool. So again, I love the artwork. And I don't know if that's just like it'd be cool if they tied in at least tangentially.
It's not that big an ask.
Not a huge ask, but they're cool artwork. But today we get our first glimpse of a new character, the Inquisitor, the Grim Inquisitor. And again, great artwork for him and our usual guy, the Gravedigger, and we got some skulls with some grass growing out of them. Really cool stuff. Alan, as is tradition, will you do us the honors of a little reading of the splash panel?
Gosh, I would love to, Jason. And I'll be doing both characters, the Grand Inquisitor and the Gravedigger. And here we go.
I bid you welcome, weary traveller, for your long and painful road has led you here directly into my clutches. I'll give you something to clutch, you pompous vomit bag. There, brother. You'll have your turn soon enough. The sun gives way to stars, so too shall your innermost tales. Desires soon be transformed to trivial tales lobbed around the fire. For it is I, the Grim Inquisitor, the finder of dark secrets and excavator of unspeakable shames, among other things. Here on I, from the lonely peak of the Bloodsucker's Hill, we gaze upon the sprawling abyss below, and hear the cacophonous agonies that echo back. Such as our own loveless Gravedigger's own pain and regret about his lowly choice of vocation. Or one widower's regrettably bad case of buyer's remorse in the screamer called Forever Home. You've heard of rebirth. In some things you lose, some things you give away. Discover the all too painful process, best described as re-death. And then hear the sordid truth of all new you, where it's not just the past that comes back to haunt a pained conscience. Unwholesome and unrelenting as always. Join us for yet another recitation of these epitaphs from the abyss, animated to tear your sanity asunder and encroach upon your shut your maggot spewing windpipe, you bloated twit, or I'll put you back in the Iron Maiden for good this time.
Bravo.
I'm going to go take a nap now.
No, I definitely hear that. Like, I don't know British accents very well, but that's a Cockney or whatever. But that yeah, I definitely.
My wife is English, so I've grown. I've lived with this for almost 40 years.
Yeah, that's spot on. Very good, very good.
Thank you.
All right. So we have our first segment, and first, before I talk about it, this is again another one that I'm just kind of confused on. So I'm going to do my best to synopsize it, and maybe you can straighten me out. This one's called.
I don't know about that.
We'll see. This one's called Forever Home. It's about a couple who are architects for 3D printed houses. So we get some really cool artwork of this 3D printed home being made, and the gentleman is the man is walking through the home talking about his wife who he misses. So that's kind of a running thing, at least in the first couple of these segments. And he kind of flashes back a little bit to how his wife or his new partner at his firm start connecting with his wife, and obviously he gets jealous, and then apparently he goes on to kill her, the husband, not the other architect, the husband. So we see him driving with a bag of money, a gun, and her body laying in the driver's seat. And he's heading down to Mexico. We find out that he made a deal with his partner, that his partner would hide him away at a house, this newly built house in Mexico that his company made that's off the grid. In exchange, he gave his partner over the company. And he's stuck in this house, and he says he's been hearing his wife talking to him, influencing him, apparently. Then the partner comes to visit, and this is the part where I get confused. He says he's been trying to find her for the longest time, then I realized, oh my God, I'm not crazy. She is here trying to tell me what happened. The houses are connected. Once I reconnected her to the grid, she showed me everything, showed me what you did. And the partner is going, "You're Frank. You're nuts, Frank. Get me out of here." And then I guess the house comes alive and kills the partner. It looks like some sort of closet, and racks come alive. It gets really weird. And then the husband, says, "It's done. I never should have doubted you. I wish I'd have as much faith in you as you always had in me." And he climbs into an incinerator with, I'm assuming, the wife's bones and skull, and burns himself and apparently the entire house down. That's about as much as I can explain this one.
Yeah.
Insight.
All right. So if I try to piece together, and hearing you describe it, I suddenly thought, okay, I was not clear on what the hell is happening here. What's this story about? Okay. So there's a panel. He says, "She showed me what you did."
Right. But that's confusing because we saw another panel. So he's talking to the partner, I'm assuming, in that.
Yes, he's talking to the young partner who just out of school, who gets the gig. But this is just after we've seen her get thrown into the concrete that was just poured. She was thrown into freshly, I guess, the foundation of the house. But he says, "What you did."
Right.
So I guess the young partner, is the one who stuck her into the foundation of the house.
Except we have that earlier panel where he is driving, unless I'm mistaken, the people, it looks like the same haircut, where he's driving to Mexico and he has her body in the car.
Yeah. And then it makes, so what you did. Yeah. And he's got a gun. He's got money. Well, is it a body? I mean, we see, all right, what is that? Is that because of what we think is in the seat between
Yeah.
that's it's just that one panel.
So
But is that a body?
it looks like her head slumped over on page 12, top of page 12.
Yeah, but then she'd be, but okay, but I don't think it is, because if you look at the artwork, actually, there's the console between the driver's seat and the passenger seat. There's a briefcase, excuse me, filled with cash and a gun, taking up most of the seat. Now, if it's a body, where is she going? Because she cannot be in between the two seats. There's a console there.
Okay.
And a body cannot fit between that suitcase, I'm sorry, the briefcase. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, or I guess maybe it's a weird bag, or
Yes.
It looks like at least a head. That's what I thought.
That was my thought too, but it can't be, because it wouldn't physically make any sense. And why would you just have her head? It never comes back to reference that. So I just think that's a problematic piece of artwork. I think a misleading piece of art.
I guess we're led to assume that her spirit is literally part of the house,
because the partner buried her there, and then the partner comes. Now, why does the partner come? I guess he's been invited to come. I guess this is all a setup. And the partner then he can't get out. He's trapped. You're nuts, Frank, and then let me out of here. All right. So then he runs through the house. Yeah. When he gets down to the closet, and the closet kind of, there's a sound effect, bzzz, and then a crunch, splorch. And I am completely unclear on what the fuck happened there. What crunched and splorched him from the
like, is that like
closet full of clothes? Was it a hanger? Is that what it is? Is it one of the hangers? I guess that's what it is. If you look at the piece of art, it could be that's the underside of a hanger. Crunch splorches him.
Crunch splorch. Nice.
Huh.
Yeah, I think the fact that neither of us can make heads or tails of some of these things is just kind of showing it's not us, unfortunately.
So now, I got to say, the last little piece. So they had built into this house off the grid an incinerator.
Yeah.
Is that to deal with the garbage? I guess, but all right, explain that. But surely that's not it. That looks like the kind of incinerator you'd use to deal with a body.
Yeah, it looks like a crematorium. Yeah, they built a crematorium into this house. And if that's her body, then did she go into the foundation of the house, or did he pull her body out? Yeah.
And how has he burned it down to into the found? Burning concrete that's not so easy.
Right.
I
like the art. Okay, I want to make sure I'm always positive and to some degree. I like the art in this one. I mean, I don't think I've ever really not liked the art in any of these, but no, I like the art is good, but the narrative here is really
no argument. It's the story that
like there's a story there, but it's like they're trying to be obtuse. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's a swing and a miss. All right.
At one out of the zone too. It went way out of the strike zone.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just move on to the next one. Okay, this one's called "Some Things You Lose, Some Things You Give Away." We have it's almost like a Lovecraftian setup, where a man is writing letters to this woman, his love. I think it's his wife. I don't know if they actually say his wife or his betrothed or his loved one. Talking about how much he misses her, and apparently it's set in a kind of Dickensian setting, or Victorian setting. And it's really I love the artwork in here, and I love the boxes and everything. It's very traditional. This very much is EC Comics territory, style wise. Again, we're getting all these letters about how there was a fire a couple years ago, but it doesn't say exactly what happened to the fire, but it seems like something that he caused. And he is kind of shunned by everybody, and the town is just kind of covered in this fog. It's very atmospheric. I really enjoy this. Again, it feels very Lovecraftian in nature. But then there's suddenly these apparitions that everyone is kind of amazed by, and they kind of come and go. But he is really intrigued by them, and he's trying to make contact with them. But I just lost that. They sorry, I lost my place. There we go. They all the people around them are saying, "You've done enough. Why are you antagonizing these spirits or whatever they are?" No one talks about them directly, but he's really confused but intrigued at the same time. But he keeps getting more and more enwrapped, and then it turns out he takes it too far and he breaks the barrier, and the town gets more and more shrouded in fog, and more of these things keep popping up until we find out that he's actually the one who's a ghost or a spirit. And the people here seeing are modern day people, and they're seeing him as a ghost. So it's a fun little twist, which I guess the twist a couple panels or a page or so before we got to it, but it's still, I really love the artwork and the atmosphere here. It's just a really good, solid piece.
It's very reminiscent of The Sixth Sense, except that I
Yep.
guess we're the ones seeing dead people.
Yeah. Where only the dead can see the dead, the living can see the living, but then I guess they kind of cross paths a little bit, and the more he tries, the more they try, and then eventually it becomes somewhat corporeal.
I think this one, I think you nailed the description. It's very atmospheric. Artwork again is terrific. Really captured when the original EC Comics would try to capture a more traditional English style of horror. Yeah, they absolutely caught all that. It was
Right. Where I think the first one took a really big swing and a really big miss. This one knows the strike zone. It does a couple of things that are a little bit different, especially like at the end. But it kind of knows it knows how to it knows where the strike zone is. I'll say it that way.
yeah. I this one went right after the hitter and finished him off.
Right. All right. And then our last one is called All New You. We have a gentleman who doesn't really like his face. Is very self-conscious about it, but he says, he can all be fixed for a few dollars and some tears. And then as he says, but after all, they say pain is beauty, and I'm about to be the fairest of them all. So he goes through some sort of procedure to get a brand new face. He, needs a couple weeks to heal up, but then when he's ready, he gets all dressed up, goes out to a bar, meets a young lady, and they hit it off, and then they, go back to her place, and they spend the night together. And then in the morning, he goes into the bathroom and he sees a picture of a young man it's hard to tell him from this art. I guess they're trying to make him seem, somewhat disheveled, or I don't know exactly what the word would be, but he recognizes it and he has a freak out, and he goes to the woman and says, what is this? Where'd you get this? And it turns out it's a picture of him before he had his surgery. And he grabs the woman, and he's getting upset, and he smacks her with the picture. And she kind of falls over. She's not passed out or anything, but he's like, tell me, why do you have this picture? And she says, that's my grandson. And he sees a piece of paper on the ground that says, it's another ad for another surgery that says, All New You, cosmetic surgery and life extension. So a couple thoughts. When I first saw the picture of the man and he starts freaking out, I thought this was going to be something where she used to be a man, is being transphobic or something like that. And I'm glad they didn't go there, but that was my first thought. And then when I saw the ending, I couldn't really make heads or tails of it, what it meant. But then I realized that she, the woman, his grandmother, is the one who got a surgery to make herself look younger and live longer. So both him and his grandmother have different faces, so they don't recognize each other. So he just slept with his grandmother.
Yeah. yeah.
Which is definitely a twist I did not see coming. So hands off to them for that.
So, all right. So how do we write a story where we can justify a guy sleeps with his grandmother and it makes sense? Why? Why? just to show that you could do it. Okay, yeah, all right.
Well, I think it's more a commentary on if we're all getting surgeries to change how we look, and we stop being able to tell what we look like to each other. So there's a movie, I think it's Korean. I forgot. I saw it a long time ago, where like so many people are getting plastic surgeries, they can't keep track of each other, so you can't tell like who your friends are, who your girlfriend is anymore, or like your old girlfriend or whatever, because everyone has a new face every couple months. So it's kind of taking that to a very extreme point.
A very extreme, I just, one of the podcasts that my little company put out, Costard and Touchstone, is called The Donor.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the donor is the absolutely true story of a friend of mine who I grew up with, who was an anonymous sperm donor in the 1980s. And in 2013, when 23andMe first opened up, he was one of the first customers, and had no idea what the ramifications would be of sending his DNA into a growing DNA database. He lost his donor anonymity, the anonymity he has as a sperm donor, and suddenly 7 total strangers found daddy. And 6 of them had no idea that their actual biological father was a sperm donor. But the 7th, a young woman, she had been aware for a couple of years that she had actually been donor conceived and had been looking for him. And when she found him, that relationship of all the 7 that these were adults, these are 30-year-old people, this one turned really weird. There's a thing called genetic sexual attraction.
Oh no.
Yeah, there is. And that's where the donor kind of goes, because it's a thing that the adoption community apparently has some experience with, where people who are genetically related to each other, but who do not grow up together, when they meet each other in later life as adults, they meet someone who they feel like they know. This other person laughs at the same things. They have the same likes and dislikes. They complete each other's sentences. And in some instances, there have been sexual sparks. The woman who coined the term genetic sexual attraction is named Barbara Gagno. And she gave up a son for adoption when she was 16. And she met that son 25 years later. He was an adult. And she fell head over heels in love with him. And she would have had sex with him, but he did not feel that way toward her. And so nothing happened, but she coined the term genetic sexual attraction to describe what she said was like nothing she'd ever felt in her entire life. So there's something in this comic. There's actually something.
Yeah.
But because they just scratched the surface, it's you could make it play there, but you'd need so much more detail and information.
Yeah,
you could make this play.
That's like the jumping off point. Yeah, that's the jumping off point, and there could be a lot more story there. That could be interesting, but for an EC comic, I like it. Definitely, like I said, if it can take me a place I wasn't expecting it, sure.
Well, and hey, you want horror? how hey, it might not be a monster, but it's horrifying.
Yeah.
I just had sex with my grandma. Ah!
Well, it's interesting because we live in the kind of a new age of the easy drug or whatever it is, the Ozempic phenomenon, to be able to supposedly change yourself very quickly and rapidly. Have you seen the movie The Substance yet?
I have not.
Okay. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Okay. That's your assignment this week for Thanksgiving week, is to watch The Substance. I think you'll like it. But that's very much another, beauty standards and, trying to make drastic change, gone awry. Very, very, very awry. But yeah. So yeah, kind of talking overall, this one's okay. The first one really drags, I think, the rest of them down. The second and third segments, they're fine. I like them. They're not home runs, but they're solid, first or second base hits.
I think the last one's an infield single.
Yeah. If the second one had like don't have to fake me out a little bit more or keep me in the dark a little bit longer, I might have liked it a little bit better. But because I figured it out before the story gave me the twist, that takes away a little bit of umph. Where the third one was probably a weaker story than the second one, but they hid the twist better than the second one. So,
oh, hey, you don't see that ending coming.
Well, I was even really confused by it for a minute, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that last panel crams a lot of information into one panel because the whole idea that it could be his grandma comes from the fact, okay, this woman has a picture of me, and then you have to see the word grandma, and then below it is the essential piece of information: cosmetic surgery and life extension.
Well, at first I thought that was his. I'm like, why would he was he asleep for a long time? So I thought, and then I'm like, wait, is it his granddaughter, not grandmother? But
and what is that doing there anyway? Why that is there for one reason. It's those cosmetic surgery and life extension. Those 5 words are there to explain the ending to you.
Right.
That's the whole point of those 5 words.
There you go. All right. Yeah. So again, fine episode or fine, issue. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. First one,
hey,
yeah,
batting 666. That's
there we go.
That's an interesting number to bat, and you're doing okay. You'll get a contract extension plus lots of more money.
All right. Before we wrap up, Alan, happy Thanksgiving. Are there any Thanksgiving traditions or anything you want to expound upon? So we got a few minutes.
Thanksgiving traditions, good.
Or
God.
any Thanksgiving tips? Do you cook the turkey? Yes.
We used to. My wife is English, and they don't do Thanksgiving. The year that we shot Tales from the Crypt in London, we were there over Thanksgiving and Christmas, and of course, they don't do Thanksgiving. So it was a working day for us, but all the Americans agreed at the end of the day, we all went out to dinner somewhere. In fact, there was no place. We weren't looking for turkey, but we had Thanksgiving dinner together after the day's work was done. We used to, instead of turkey, we used to do lobster.
I've heard a lot of people that do that, like New England Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and that was fun for a while. The trick was getting a fresh, because I would boil it live. I'm a fucking monster that way.
Bastard.
And the trick was always, okay, where can you get them on Thanksgiving Day? And there are places, but it got a little more challenging. You have to drive farther, but that's okay. Often to Chinatown, there are a couple of markets out in Monterey Park. There's some great supermarkets, some Asian supermarkets. I love Asian supermarkets.
Yeah, I do too.
Love them to pieces. I could spend hours just wandering the aisles, but especially the fresh seafood.
What's the one in Alhambra? I think it's not Uwajimaya, is it? Or it's I don't know if you ever. I guess that's the Northwest thing. I'm blanking on the name, but it's a big one. It's next to a Jollibee that used to be an Arby's. But no, because they do the fresh duck, like that. I love duck. I'm a huge duck.
Do you? I do too. I'm a big fan of duck.
Okay, so there's a place I've always wanted to go to that does like.
Then we have to go have a duck dinner.
Yeah, well, my family won't go. So
Sure.
I need someone to go with me.
Cool.
But well, it's funny you talk about getting live lobsters because for the first year, we're doing a farm fresh turkey. Like a friend of my wife's or someone, recommended to us, and they're like, "Do you want to? You can come meet your turkey beforehand, and then you can also come and help process it." And I'm like, "No, thank you to both."
Yes, I pulled half the feathers out of that damn bird.
Well,
No,
I was telling my
thank you.
kids about it, and they're like, "Well, but we don't usually." But they didn't. They're having trouble understanding what a farm fresh turkey is versus a non. They're like, "What? So we haven't had turkey the other years?" Like, no, it's still a turkey. It's just not been frozen and processed and whatever else they do to them.
But this is a turkey you can have a relationship with.
This is where you can go meet your meat.
Yeah.
Take a Hitchhiker's Guide reference.
Oh gosh.
All right. Well, Ellen, again, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you? What you got going on?
Right now, the best place to find this is at thedonorpodcast.com or at the How Not to Make a Movie podcast, hownottomakeamovie.com. Great starting places, but big things coming in the weeks and months ahead. We've got a new podcast that's going to drop in December by a little company, Costard and Touchstone. We're going to drop a new one called The Hall Closet. Absolutely true story about a woman who grew up in the 80s and early 90s in a lower tier crime family outside of Philadelphia. And they weren't the Corleones. They were several tiers down, kind of a white trash crime family. And they were, she was always felt like she didn't belong. Couldn't explain it. And there's a lot of abuse, a lot of awful things happened to her. She learned at the age of 42 that those feelings weren't wrong because she learned the secret that, in fact, her father was a sperm donor. Her mother had kept that a secret from her.
You just keep going back to that.
And so, indeed, she did not belong to the world in which she grew up. I mean, half did, but really, a lot of her did not. And so these are really some challenging stories to tell, but she's such a wonderful storyteller. And it's about survival. It's about finding a safe space. And that really, it's the remarkable thing that as dark as the stories get, there's always redemption at the end. And you walk away so uplifted from her stories. She's wonderful. It's called The Hall Closet. Her name is Donna Hall, and that will start dropping in December.
All right. Look forward to that. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone for listening and or watching. I really appreciate it if you'll give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, a like and subscribe on YouTube, and a follow at Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.